edition of the Sports Report. And we are back. We got the full crew in the house. That is what it's all about. The Yankees, out of any team in the league, are the best equipped to handle a blow like this.
I think there is a higher power at play here. He's due law of averages. That dude is the ultimate scrub. It's trash. Yeah. Every person you have in there is fucking trash.
Next game, you're going to see a big performance. You can see it in the end of the game, and I'm just totally stoked and excited for this.
And we are back. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Report. And today we have the Barnes and Tony show with Michael from the couch, Renee in the vicinity, Matthew in the vicinity. How's everyone doing today?
Oh, doing great. Happy New Year. First episode of the new year,
and how about this,
dude?
Tony? Episode number 425, and we still have not had to talk about a Jets playoff game, and we won't get to talk about one. Once again, one of many things to talk about over the weekend. Zach Wilson. The Major League Baseball offseason goes on. The NFL season will conclude next weekend, the regular season, with Week 18. We have, still some division races, wild card races. So much yet to be determined. College football.
Wow.
We had the 2 semifinal games. They were so good. Tony even tuned in, which was
did.
First college games of the year for you?
Honestly, I think it was, dude.
Was there one player in particular stood out to you over the weekend, or?
I mean, I guess the quarterback of Georgia, Stetson
Bennett, who's older than like 5 starting NFL quarterbacks. He's going to turn 26 this year.
That's crazy. I want to know his story, honestly. Do you know his story?
The thing is, I think he redshirted. And then also everybody who was in college during COVID got an extra year because the season was shortened, but that messed up recruiting. Guys are staying. They normally wouldn't have the eligibility.
I'm assuming like he's a grad student, right?
Yeah.
Last year?
I would think so. Yeah. I think there's always ways around it. Even if like you were a grad student, but you have another year of athletic eligibility, you can just say, I'm going to do this major now. You know what I mean? And just like kind of, cheat it that way. But it was kind of like almost eerie in a way how the field goal at the end of that Ohio State Georgia game lined up exactly with the ball dropping at midnight. Little conspiracy or no?
I don't know. I mean, come on, conspiracy, college football conspiracy. You think? I mean, I don't know. I think. I suppose maybe the game was ridiculously long. It started at 8, right?
Yeah, it was ridiculously
like a
long.
4-hour game.
But I think didn't they do a little halftime show or something?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know why they did not wait until like after the ball dropped. Like call timeout, something. Like, you still had time on the play clock too. Like, just give the man a second. But
I mean, were you feeling the juice with it? The college football games a little bit.
Oh yeah. I mean, I caught a little bit of TCU playing Michigan. Obviously I was up in Vermont for the holiday, so I didn't catch a lot of it. But the bars we were at obviously had them on, and then of course the Georgia game. That was the last game on. It was on during the New Year too, so everyone was talking about it. And you think about, I think, what were they down, like 21-0, like approaching halftime?
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, Ohio State had it, but yeah, there was a lot of juice for sure around those games.
What were your thoughts on TCU quarterback Max Duggan, running left, running right? Usually doesn't turn the ball over. I think he had 2 picks.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you appreciate the running. I don't know, dude. I mean, from what I've heard, the people are murmuring that Georgia's going to roll in and just absolutely clobber them, dude.
But the you know what it is, though? The thought process was that was kind of likely against Michigan.
Right.
And here they are falling flat on their face after last year. They lost to Georgia. Ohio State, after they got absolutely destroyed last year by Georgia in the national championship, blow it. So it is kind of interesting how that's kind of happened. And I just feel like it's been so long. If you look at it too, like last year kind of broke that sequence where every year either Clemson or Alabama had won the national championship for like 8 years or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, this could be the year where we get something different. It doesn't seem likely.
What do you think, Brian?
I honestly think we're due. We're
TCU,
due for that.
Yeah.
And on the precipice of this playoff expanding, once this playoff expands, this is going to be kind of crazy, I feel like, a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like for me, it already is too crazy.
But
I think it's too many. Dude.
It's
too much?
But how is 4 too much? Like you like the old BCS system?
Yeah.
I do like though earning it though. You know what I mean? Not just like, oh, you play the regular season, you win your conference championship game, but winning around in the playoffs to get to the championship and then beating it, not just winning. I mean, basically, yeah, just winning one game. I don't know. You know what I mean? You think about all the other sports. This isn't baseball in the 50s with the pennant, right? I mean, it's
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I also just clearly, I mean, I'm not really that huge into college football. Like you said, it was my first game that I
right.
watched the whole year. So I would have to really dive a little deeper into it,
But
Which,
and I think it's funny because the one thing I will say, and I obviously, I agree with you about this with college football. It's tough sometimes, but I think it is kind of situational between players and environments. You're watching a game and the stadium's going absolutely nuts. It's a close back and forth game. It's appealing. If there's a guy like Trevor Lawrence, that's coming into the league, you know what I mean? You want to watch him, Joe Burrow, you know what I mean? Like
right.
that stuff is captivating. I think where it gets lost in translation is when there's the uneven matchups that take up probably almost half of the games. If you think about it, it's not always Georgia, Alabama, LSU, blah, blah, blah. So I think also I think it will be better with the bigger playoff because then we can have more variety. It gets kind of boring Clemson or Alabama winning the championship every year.
Oh yeah. I will say though, and one thing, and even, working like the Sacred Heart games, when I was there, the one thing college football I think has on the NFL is really the atmosphere. There really isn't anything like it when, these stadiums that are basically like, NFL stadiums are just absolutely rocking with like the student body, who obviously have a lot, they have a lot more, I guess you could say, in the games and everything. And to see all these students kind of come around, surrounding these players, these young guys. I mean, I would imagine that, these quarterbacks of these great teams like Georgia, Ohio State, even TCU, I'm sure they got to be like celebrities on campus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
No,
dude.
you're 100% right. And it's kind of interesting too, because I feel like when we look at specifically quarterbacks, because that's just what always the obsession has been for a long time now, where we look at like a player's career and we kind of like forget about college. Like once they get to the pros, it's like all about the pros.
Right.
But in the moment and for these schools, going to back-to-back national championships like Georgia this year, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's something that shouldn't just be kind of swept under the rug. Like, oh, on to the next one, like whatever, it's college, this and that. Like, I do think there are some good stuff coming from college. And it is nice too, you have to admit, Tony, to have some type of variety with the sports, having a lot of options. You know what I mean? That is kind of nice. And I feel like I've kind of done that with the NHL when that wasn't even an option before. And now, okay, we have that. We could sprinkle in little college football. We could sprinkle in a little college basketball. And I think for college just in general, the big games are always fun. I think, you don't have to be a consistent week in and week out watching it, but those really big games, those are always going to be fun with talented players.
I mean, I'm going to watch the national championship for sure. I mean, now, especially now, like I'm more than interested.
What's your prediction? Early prediction?
I mean, I guess early prediction based on what I've been hearing and seeing. I mean, I'm going to go with Georgia. You got to, going for the back-to-back. I just think maybe TCU, being that they are underdogs, maybe they'll be,
Max
nervous,
Duggan,
dude,
Tony.
a little nervous.
Started this season, he was a starter last couple of years, but injuries, inconsistencies. So they had someone starting ahead of him. He gets injured in the first game, takes over and doesn't lose a start till the Big 12 championship. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
No, yeah, that really is. But I guess, time will tell, as things typically do. So I'm pumped for it. Is it next weekend?
It is
not
Monday.
This weekend.
It's a week from today.
It's a week from today.
Yeah.
Wow, it's on a Monday.
As Matthew chimes in, the playoff is sick,
dude.
It definitely is. It's pretty cool. Something different. Especially it's still newer. I think there's been 7 or 8, whatever it is. But yeah, the Monday finish, that's kind of been the tradition for a while now, even back in the BCS days. 12 teams in a few years, I think. Should have just made it 8 or 6. Not a bad thought. And what I was kind of alluding to this when I was telling you, like, this is giving other teams opportunities. I think I think we've gotten to a point because a lot of times, like, you think about the NCAA basketball tournament, for instance, they say, the opening weekend is dominated by the Cinderella teams, the 12 over the 5, the 13 seeds, the 14 seeds. But then past that, It's the powerhouses. That's what everybody wants to see. But I feel like because it's been so long, and I almost want to say the last national championship, like from a mid-major conference, was like UNLV, which was, over, or actually was 30 years ago, I think, on the nose. It's like that's a long time. Like it would be kind of cool to see something like that, and we've seen teams come close in recent years and making the Final Four. Obviously, one of Matthew's personal favorites, Sister Jean. That was obviously crazy. Loyola Chicago. So hey, I don't know about you, Tony, but like it's like I definitely really respect dominance by one team, one program, but the underdog crazy run is always pretty appealing to me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you love taking the dog in the hockey picks, dude. I mean, underdog stories, the Cinderella stories, as you were saying.
8 seed winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, literally. And it's, it's moments like that where it really makes you think, as we see in many sports, at many moments, there are parallels to life. And that if you see a team that's, the lowest seed going through this tournament, winning a national title, I mean, that makes you feel like you could do anything. It makes anyone feel that way, So of course it's, it's incredibly appealing to anyone, especially you, Brian.
And how about TCU entering the season, not 1, but 200-1 to make the college football playoff?
Do you make really, dude?
Mm-hmm. And you had a first-year head coach in Sonny Dykes, who had coached at Cal, had coached at Louisiana Tech, taking over for Gary Patterson. Had been the longtime coach, but falling on some hard times. I think there were some recruiting violations as well. And to do this in his first year, I think they just announced he won some award for National Coach of the Year, and you can't blame him. Like I said, they were undefeated going into that Big 12 title game. So you got to give it to TCU. And it's kind of interesting, when their run started, they were a mid-major team, and then they ended up switching conferences, going to the Big 12, which gave them some exposure. And they had won a game, I believe, against Wisconsin, actually, in the Rose Bowl. That was their first exposure to the big scene. And that was actually back in the Andy Dalton days at TCU. So way back when. So the history of college sports, it is fun. I think it's just, it's almost like the NBA in a way. Like it's like sometimes the regular season is tough, like I said, unless it's a big game. That's for sure. And Matthew says Skaltson, Goose loves TCU back in 2008, a longtime fan, LOL. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, Matt always loved Wisconsin, the Frank Kaminsky days, Tony. I know you remember those in the NCAA tournament. No, but under Bo Ryan year after year, Tony, in the Final Four. No. But you really did, you haven't always watched the NCAA tournament?
No.
Really? What about but I feel like, I don't know, the last couple of years you haven't kind of paid an eye to it a little bit. Like we do our preview show.
I mean, if you asked me who won the last one, I probably couldn't tell you. 2 years ago, didn't Gonzaga win it 2 years ago?
No, they keep getting to the national championship game and losing. Baylor. Now I'm actually blanking for a second who won last year. Oh, Kansas, Bill Self.
Oh, that's right.
On top, first one since 2008. Mario Chalmers, how are you? Derrick Rose missing the shot. Memphis, Calipari, and Michael knows. You know what I mean? So, oh yeah, right. Yeah, Mario hit the shot. He was always kind of an underrated NBA player. Yeah, perfect role player. Yeah.
In the finals when LeBron was in, this is the year they won though. And LeBron was kind of being a little softy, and he was like, "Stop being a bitch." And it's all, and he listened to him.
You know who they always said?
National championship. LeBron respected him.
And you know who they always said was the glue to those teams, though. He's still playing right now.
He's gangster, dude. He's a good. I love him.
Like Dwayne Wade always,
20 years.
Whenever they won a championship, the first thing he'd say, "You've always been big for us."
I know.
Wow. Unbelievable. Tony, 44. He plays 3 games a year, plays 5 minutes maybe. It's like, why not put on the suit and be an assistant? Well, I guess they don't wear suits anymore, but you know what I mean? It's kind of crazy how he does that.
Wow.
Yeah, set the record.
Undrafted.
But I can't believe Tony's telling me he is blacked out for all the NCAA tournament history. He's I couldn't really tell you anything. You get a little fired up when the tournament's going on. Yeah, no, I remember that was actually I swear that That was the first one I closely watched, and I remember it was such a big story. I was like, Melo, wow, he should be the number 1 pick in the draft. Who's this LeBron James guy? That was an unbelievable run. Jerry McNamara. I know Tony was always a big Jerry McNamara fan. Hakeem Warwick, yeah.
Those UConn teams with Emeka, were great with Ben Gordon, obviously.
Ben Gordon was always one of my favorites. And they always had good guards too. Marcus Williams, Talik Brown. The 3-point shooter, Rashad Anderson. Money from the corner. Money.
And I like those North Carolina teams with
Sean May, Rashad McCants, Raymond Felton. Tony, this year you're going to get riled. I know UConn just lost their first game over the weekend, Tony, but we're going to get you fired up.
Oh, did they really?
We're going to reinvigorate your college enthusiasm. I'm guaranteeing you right now. I'm just saying, who would have thought I would have liked NHL? What's the difference?
And you guys did a pretty good job. I mean, I've been into football this season, so.
There you go. No, you really, if you think about it, NFL, you've been way more into NFL this year than you ever have.
Oh, yeah, dude. Like, literally than I ever have before.
Like, you have a good sense, the feel of the league, like what we're trending to. There's so much to talk about. I'm actually really excited, even though it's another dark day for us Jets fan. But let's get it started. Let's go to the world of the National Football League.
6 for 101, 2 touchdowns. To Evans, touchdown, Tampa Bay. How about that throw? Sam Darnold blasted. Oh my goodness, did he take a hit? In trouble once, brings him down. Lost one for Odell Beckham Jr. Got it down, touchdown.
All right. So as I alluded to, the Jets' playoff hopes are vanished as they lose in Seattle yesterday, 23-6. And me and Tony were talking about it before the show. It has been an absolutely atrocious performance offensively, specifically over the last 4 games, only scoring 38 points. That's just unacceptable. And you think about their effort yesterday, especially the defense. The defense has rightfully so got a lot of credit for some of their success that they had earlier this season. Obviously, you think about the big free agent signing at cornerback and DJ Reed. You think about Sauce Gardner, the impact he's had as a rookie. But they just haven't stepped up. You saw it right from the beginning. Kenneth Walker almost takes it to the house, 60-yard run, the first carry of the game. I feel like it was just so embarrassing. And I've really been like kind of firm on, listen, they've improved this year. We want continuity. We'll stick with Salah. But Michael from the start has said he's not the guy. We don't want him there. And now I'm really reconsidering that because, wow. I don't know. You think about Seattle. They had been struggling just as much as the Jets. And if you watch this game and you didn't know about anything before, you'd say, oh, Seattle must be one of the better teams in the league. The defense, offensively. Look at the quarterback, Geno Smith. How many Super Bowls has he won? You know what I mean? It's like, it really is remarkable. And I just am completely embarrassed. And, I think the only thing, Tony, that gets me through a rough stretch like this, losing 5 in a row to get eliminated from the playoffs, is the fact that it's like, I'm used to it. And that's really sad, but it's true. I'm used to this position of now, what's the future? Who are we bringing in the offseason? Are we once again going to fire our coach? Who the hell is our quarterback? How many times do we have to say that? And it's like, I've been pulling for White. I don't think it's all his fault. The offensive line has been absolutely atrocious, but we're coming into a year, and especially if Robert Saleh is going to stay, as a head coach, we have to make the playoffs. So it's like taking a chance on Mike White, it doesn't seem that attractive. And I just find myself at a crossroads. What do we do? Where do we go? And Tony, I want to go to you on this one, and I'm just hoping you have some type of answer for me. What should the Jets do? How do they move forward? How do they, grow from this year, as disappointing as the finish has been?
Honestly, I mean, I hate to say Salah's got to go, but I think Salah may have to go.
Do you think they just need a veteran, hard-nosed football coach who's been there, holds his players accountable? And also the fact, if you think about the recent trend of the Jets, they've had all defensive-minded head coaches. They haven't had any offensive-minded head coaches. Do you think that is a necessity? They needed an offensive-minded head coach and a veteran one. And Peyton is the pipe dream. everyone thinks it's unlikely, but is that the type of thing that they need in order to get out of this rut that they find themselves in of never getting over the hump?
I think so. I mean, I don't exactly know. I understand that these coaches are defensive minded. I don't know how like pigeonholed they are towards defense, like how not versatile they are. But I mean, it seems like you have to pivot in a different direction at this point. I mean, it's been play calling in the red zone has been an issue throughout the whole season. You have an issue at quarterback. I mean, you need a head coach who can kind of settle that quarterback down, who obviously would have to be somewhat of an offensive-minded coach to understand, what their quarterback is going through. I suppose Saleh did an okay job, in holding his players accountable. Obviously benching Zach Wilson and that whole ordeal. He seemed pretty strong, going through that and, deciding Mike White being the guy and everything like that. So you have to tip your hat to that. But, I mean, I don't want to blame Mike White for everything here, but I mean, he threw 2 interceptions. He had opportunities to hit open receivers, and he just wasn't really on the mark. So I don't know if it was the fact that he's just really not that great, and we're seeing that now that he's getting some more starts here, that he's being leaned on by his team, or that he just may have had a bad game. Regardless, I mean, bad game or bad quarterback, it couldn't have come at a worse time at that point for the Jets. So you have to change things up. I mean, I suppose the production of Mike White, you can kind of roll with those punches he's given you because he's still throwing for over 240, 250 yards, whatever it is. And I think maybe I would have to point to, at that point, the head coach. I don't know if maybe you could settle for a different offensive coordinator and then go from there. But I mean, again, holding the team, holding the man responsible, accountable. I mean, it's going to be your head coach.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. And Peyton definitely jumps to mind just because he's just so creative offensively, and I feel like that's what they need. But let's just say they can't do that. And I know this is going against what I just said, but a name that just comes to mind, a guy that's heavily motivated, especially after the disappointment this weekend in the college ranks, and he had some success, never winning a Super Bowl, but getting there with the San Francisco 49ers. Does it make sense, even though he has a defensive background, to just throw the kitchen sink at Jim Harbaugh, because he's a tough-nosed football coach that is going to demand the best out of his players, and he's been there before?
I mean, do you think he wants to coach in the NFL?
I think so. I think that he was so close.
Right.
Think of it. You almost won a Super Bowl, and he had Colin Kaepernick at quarterback. We know he wasn't a polished pocket passer. He had built a really strong defense, and he really made use of his running backs, his wide receivers. They weren't the best in the league, but he just made it all work. And his worst year in 4 years was 8-8. And he went to the NFC Championship game the other 3 years. I mean, that's a track record.
No, yeah, I mean, I would be all for that. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he decide to leave the NFL and go back to college?
So It wasn't clear what opportunities were presented to him. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, he signed the contract with Michigan, of course. I think the ideal situation, I think at the time, too, it's just funny, they're always looking for a head coach. The Jets job might have been open, and that was under consideration. But I think he just felt like there was a calling. Michigan football had fallen, from the heydays of Lloyd Carr. They had brought some other guys in, and it just wasn't working. So he felt it's his responsibility to restore them to national prominence. And I just feel like after making the college football playoff the last 2 years, you feel like he's got them positioned pretty well. And I think it would be, what if they give him $100 million and say, you're the GM? That might be enough to get him out of Michigan.
Yeah, and we got a few comments here from Matthew. Actually, coming in very hot. I mean, I love this take here. He goes, I love you guys, but I can't agree with you here. Not Saleh's fault. He says, first of all, the QB situation is the biggest issue. They got bamboozled this year because no one knew Wilson would suck this much ass that they don't even dress him. Injuries, he says, no excuse, but the O-line got banged up, so that's another thing.
So, I understand, like, obviously the quarterback situation is a mess, but I do feel like, there are some things that Saleh should be held accountable for. And I know the players play the game, but as flat as they have played the last 2 games, I feel like some of that has to fall on the coach preparing them for the game.
I mean, I just think, like, listen, I'm not saying it's an easy job. It's anything but an easy job to be the head coach of the New York Jets. I mean,
the Jets of all teams,
the Jets of all
let
teams,
alone a coach in general,
let alone a coach in general, let alone a coach in New York in general.
Yeah.
You're coaching the New York Jets. It's not a walk in the park. There are no sunshines and rainbows over here. You need a guy. I'm not saying Salah's a bad coach. It just seems like he's not a right fit for the Jets.
Yeah, and it's a shame too because I think what would be perfect, and I wonder if there's any history if they cross paths with San Francisco. Maybe not, because too much time has passed by. But if he was the defensive coordinator for Jim Harbaugh, something like that, or he was the defensive coordinator for Sean Payton, but obviously that's not going to work. And I think the thing is too, you need a veteran offensive coordinator if you are going to keep Robert Saleh. The only problem is somebody with an extensive offensive background. If they're going to come to the Jets, I think they want to be the head coach.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
that's a problem.
And Matthew's sticking by it. He goes, I know that he's a players coach and that can backfire in my opinion, but he's been my favorite coach I think we've ever had since we've been fans. Solid, great coach, rallies the troops and they play for him. So let's keep him. Another big thing, Woody Johnson has his hand in this. So Saleh probably can't do as much as he would like to. In terms of coaching, let's get a new offensive coordinator for sure. But I mean, Matt, if Peyton comes in here and wants to head coach, I mean, how do you say no?
But you know what the thing is, unless there's like
even
a specific quarterback we're going to get, whether it's going to trade up in the draft to get maybe CJ Stroud at the number 2 pick, or bring in another quarterback via trade, whatever it is, Aaron Rodgers. He's going to need that type of quarterback. Otherwise, he's not. I mean, unless he really thinks he can fix Zach Wilson, but it's just like, who wants to take on that liability?
Yeah, I think you're totally right. Matthew does agree with that. What do you think about his Woody Johnson comment, though? I mean,
no, they were talking about that in the fan today.
You think Saleh's getting some heat from up top?
Oh, and I think Woody gets impatient. And they said they think he might even be more impatient because, he was the ambassador to the U.S. and the U.K., so he wasn't even controlling the team for a couple of years. His brother, Christopher, had been taking over the team in that period of time. He actually hired Robert Saleh so that there could be something there, especially because he was so excited. I mean, you think about the course of this season through 10 games, you're 7-3. It seems like the playoffs are almost a given at this point, and then you just completely crash and burn when you were so close. Frustration might boil over, but I think it is true, and they were talking about this in Carton and Roberts. It's like you can't fire him but not have a solid option to replace him. You can't bring in a mediocre coach at that point. You might as well keep him. And it's like, we talked about this before, and I'm kind of rethinking about it in my head. But like, let's say we did go the Cliff Kingsbury route, assuming he gets fired by Arizona. I mean, look how that situation is crashed and burned. Can we guarantee that he's going to be good as our offensive coordinator? And also, is going to be kind of a weird situation. He was a head coach. He was a head coach longer than Robert Saleh. So is it going to be kind of a weird dynamic for him to come in as the offensive coordinator?
I mean, I would think it would be kind of weird, right?
So that's why it's so tough. Another guy that comes to mind, Frank Reich. I know that situation in Indianapolis fell apart quickly. I don't know how much of it was his fault. And you think about, he really wanted Carson Wentz. They pushed him out. And we'll talk about that in a second. Obviously, he had a terrible day yesterday. But if you look at the numbers last year, other than those last 2 games, he was great. So it's like, I think Reich, did have some good impact there. And I think offensively, he would get us going in the right direction. He was a quarterback in the NFL, backed up Jim Kelly with the Bills.
Right.
I just feel like we need someone with that type of experience and not, Mike LaFleur, who only has a job because his brother's Matt and he's the head coach of the Packers.
Right. And I guess to go back to the the Woody Johnson thing, I understand. I guess Saleh was hired by his brother, but I mean, at what point, if you're the head coach, do you just kind of like put your foot down? And I feel like it's your job to sell yourself, to sell your plan to ownership. I mean, you got to kind of really make the owner believe that no matter what, like the track that you're on, that the track that you're putting the team on is going to be better for the team in the long run, and that's, I mean, I would say that's also kind of on Saleh. I mean, you can't just be, I'm getting heat from ownership or whoever. I mean, you got to, again, take accountability.
Yeah, no, you couldn't be more right. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I guess the last question I'd ask you before we move on here, and also just really quickly too, wanted to give a shout out Garrett Wilson. He had already broke the Jets rookie wide receiver yardage record. He officially hit over 1,000 yards yesterday. So I think that's a big accomplishment. Only 4 touchdowns, had 74 receptions. I feel like that's pretty impressive as a rookie to come do that with the Jets, the instability they've had at quarterback this year. I think that's pretty impressive. When we've talked about him many times, I think he's going to be a future all-pro wide receiver.
Oh, yeah. I mean, huge get.
But the question is, who's going to be throwing on the ball? And what I would ask you, and I know some of this hinges on, are they going to get a new coach? Would Aaron Rodgers even want to come here? That type of thing. But just in terms of, do we put any stock into, the final week of the season against Miami? Let's say somehow Mike White has one of those good games like he did against the Bears. Does he re-enter the conversation, or is it the complete clean slate where you don't have any quarterbacks that were on the roster this year on your roster next year?
I mean, I think if he comes out against Miami, and I understand, the offensive line wasn't great from this weekend. He was sacked 4 times for some pretty significant losses too. To have that in his face, obviously pretty tough. But again, as a quarterback, you got to learn to kind of scramble out, find somebody open, and if he comes out against Miami and does exactly that, I think there's some stock in him, and I think it'd be worth to at least keep him, I mean, why with no slate?
And in keeping him, do you bring in Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, or do you keep him with the mindset of we're getting rid of Zach and we're going to draft a quarterback in the draft? We're going to maybe even move up in the draft to get one, but we're going to give him time and let him learn under Mike White. I mean, what do you think is the best way to go?
I think if you're keeping White, you bring in another veteran quarterback, like a Jimmy G. Just for Mike White to even win under, and maybe Mike White doesn't necessarily start for you, and you bring in Jimmy G, you start Jimmy G, and to have Mike White there. How old is Mike White now? Like
27, 28.
Yeah, I think if you keep him around and bring in a veteran quarterback to start over him, honestly, and to have Mike White be your backup.
Yeah.
And if all this fails, if you don't get a veteran quarterback, you have a Mike White.
Do you think, and especially if we think about the capital that would be required, that it would almost be like not a good idea to even entertain Rodgers? Because we've seen the decline in the play this year. I know they're on a hot streak and might get in the playoffs, but he hasn't been the same. He's going to be 40. You'd probably have to give multiple first-round picks. Would you do it?
No.
What if Peyton came, though? Then would you do it?
If Sean Payton came with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, if it was, that's how you get Sean Payton.
Right. But I mean.
And then you could still draft someone, obviously.
But see, like, is Sean Payton going to be like, Rodgers obviously starting no matter what, and then is Peyton going to leave again when Rodgers is done? Like,
yeah. Well, you have to have a good backup.
Yeah.
So many ifs, whats. It's just crazy though. As soon as you get eliminated, we do the same thing in baseball. You're just constantly thinking about the future, the path forward, how we're going to improve. So it is just, it's really. It's tough to end on a sour note here. But I kind of think, we can't look past the probability that the Jets may, especially if they lose in Miami, they could move as high as the 7th pick in the draft. So you think if you get up to 7, you look at the way the draft order is now, it goes Houston at 1. They're presumed, to take Bryce Young. But then number 2 is Chicago, and number 3 is the Seattle Seahawks. So, and 4 being Arizona as well. So you think you should be able to move up there. Those teams aren't like looking for a quarterback. I think they may do that because CJ Stroud for Ohio State, I think he played pretty well. So I think that's definitely a legit option for them. It's just tough because if you do take him though, you need someone to groom him on the coaching staff. Otherwise, it's a waste because you might end up in the Sam Darnold, Mark Sanchez, Zach Wilson situation once again.
Do you think the Jets should tank against Miami?
Yeah.
Really?
What's the point? What other than saying we won 8 games this year? That's the most we've won since 2016. Isn't that so great, Michael? Oh man.
Yeah, but so you don't want to go out there and give Mike White like a fighting chance at kind of proving himself?
But you know what I mean? What the best thing to happen would be to lose 51-48. Mike White, 450 yards, 4 touchdowns, and then you get that draft pick, move up, get your guy, have the veteran, have Stroud learn under Garoppolo with Sean Payton or another creative offensive mind. That's the best pass forward, Tony.
No,
Tony, can I get it?
Yeah, you got it. You're on.
No, Barnes. Why don't we just get another defensive head coach?
But the only thing I was saying, though, he's defensive minded, but I think Harbaugh would be good, though.
Dude, he'd be awesome.
Right? Because the intensity. That's why.
That chin. The chinny chin. Seen that thing, Tony?
That's the only defensive guy that I would bring in. I don't know if we have a chance for him.
All right. We asked a few more comments from Matthew here, who is, very opinionated right now.
Yep.
Absolutely love it. He goes, also, guys, this is how I view this season. So last year we won 4 games. This year we have 7, possibly 8. So if you think about it, not a bad year, he says. I don't know how I feel about that. Only reason why I feel so beat is because we got off to such a hot start and the playoffs looked like a lock. And then this losing streak comes at the end of the year and it's so recent. And then he goes, fuck that. We have to pound Miami. And then he says he could poke someone's eye out with that chin, Michael.
I understand everything he's saying. And of course, when you root for a team, naturally, you're always going to want them to win. But I just know we picked really good talent in the draft this year. I want to do that again next year. And I don't want to not have as good of a shot at doing so just because I want to win a meaningless game against Miami.
Right.
That's just the nature of the beast. But,
I'm
we'll
okay with Saleh one more year, dude.
Gotta have the new offensive coordinator.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Gotta. I want a guy who's 65 years old, been
who's a
in the league
lunatic,
for 30
bro.
years. Yeah, crazy.
Yes.
And then I think a big thing, and we started to do it more this year, but I want more emotion on offense. You ever notice that? We never have guys in motion.
Yeah, never. It's like, just
no
stay
creativity.
Run it on first, throw it on second.
It's personal with Miami.
Oh, I know. Yeah, of course. But dude, Matt, you got to think about it this way. We need the pick. We need long term. Like Barnes is saying, all we do need is a quarterback.
Yeah, and an offensive line. Just literally.
No, they were injured. They got injured.
No, but that's no.
But you're right. Stack up.
We still need 2 or 3 more guys. We have some good building blocks. Vera Tucker is going to be very good once he comes back. We'll see what happens with Mekhi Becton. So let's just run down the all the games from yesterday. One that really doesn't have any implication on playoffs or not very appealing, but Falcons were 20-19 winners over the Cardinals. I think this is one of those games where the Cardinals are happy they lost. Get that higher draft pick. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback because of the contract that they owe Kyler Murray. But at least you can get someone to, come in there, help the team right away. And then it's just going to be interesting.
Dude. Yeah, literally.
But you do have DeAndre Hopkins. You have this high draft.
Trade
pick.
him, bud.
You can't trade Kyler Murray.
No, Hopkins.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I'm saying, okay, you could trade Hopkins, get a decent pick, but who do you bring in there? How do you fix that situation? How do you fix Kyler Murray? I guess you need an offensive head coach, right? Quarterback guru?
Yeah. I mean, you would need. Is there any way you can take a flyer on like a Derek Carr or maybe bring in a Jimmy G or something like that?
But the dead money though with Murray, you can't. He's coming back from the ACL. No, I think it would literally be like $100 million. Not kidding.
Gosh, dude.
But he's coming back from the ACL, so you could bring in a veteran to at least start. But you need a new head coach.
Yeah,
and it's just like with the Broncos. You have to try to fix them
so
as much as you don't want to.
So the market for Peyton is pretty fucking wide, huh, dude?
It's crazy. Think about all the turnover every year.
Wow.
And I think Arthur Smith on the other side is safe in Atlanta. But I think Desmond Ridder, he's definitely, maybe he'll get a shot to win a starting job with Atlanta next year. Mariota clearly outplayed him this year. It's going to be interesting to see what they do at quarterback. How Kyle Pitts comes back from that injury. Algier looks good at running back. So they do have some guys, and I think Arthur Smith could be a coach, but he just obviously needs more help around him. So we'll see what happens there. Another game from yesterday. How about the Lions? 41-10 over Chicago. Something I really didn't see coming. And, you got to give it to, Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions here because backs are against the wall. It seemed like they were, after that win against the Jets, especially, maybe they have a shot for the playoffs. Then they lose that game. And now they're a long shot because they do play Green Bay, but they would need Seattle to lose and beat Green Bay, obviously, to get into the playoffs next week. But Jared Goff, another great game, 21 to 29, 255, 3 touchdowns. And he did find Brock Wright for 2 of those touchdowns, DeAndre Swift for 1. They ran the ball effectively, 39 carries, 265 yards. Jamal Williams, what a season he's had. What an impact since coming over from Green Bay. He was always a backup there, overshadowed by Aaron Jones, of course. This year, he's rushed for 994 yards and 15 touchdowns.
Wow.
So that's something in his age 27 season. Pretty impressive stuff what Campbell's doing, especially after the tough start. I think they were 2-7, if I'm not mistaken. Think about the tough year they had last year. Seems like the future is pretty bright for them, no?
I mean, I guess so. I mean, you think Jared Goff kind of turns it around, keeps this up?
How do you get rid of him?
I know you can.
The numbers are great this year.
It's unbelievable, dude.
So obviously they need help on the defensive side of the ball. That's the biggest thing. But offensively, maybe you want to get one more receiver. But Jared Goff this year, 4,200 yards, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, tied for 6th in the entire NFL in QBR at 62.6.
That's ridiculous.
So and they outside shot the playoffs, good running game. I think you get the defense going. And Goff, it seems like he's been around a while.
Mm-hmm.
He's only 28 years old. He led the Rams to the Super Bowl. It's not crazy to think that they could actually have some success with Jared Goff, and he actually might be the better quarterback long-term versus Matthew Stafford, who seems like he's pretty banged up with all the injuries.
Yeah, I mean, it does. It seems like, the Rams kind of got the shaft with that deal. But I mean, yeah, it looks like, the Lions could be successful, right now.
Right.
I mean, again, going into the playoffs with that amount of momentum behind you, the wins at your back, like Jared Goff's feeling himself. You have offense. I mean, say what you will about, defense winning championships. I mean, if your offense is scoring, I mean, it's going to be tough to stop them,
Yeah. And you look on the other side of this game, Chicago, they fall to 3-13 under first-year head coach Matt Eberflus. Obviously, Justin Fields has had some very exciting moments at times this year. Has an outside chance, actually, in Week 18 of breaking Lamar Jackson's single-season rushing record for a quarterback. He has 1143 right now and 8 touchdowns, but he's taken a lot of hits. That's a weak offensive line. He doesn't have a lot of weapons. Maybe they need to change an offensive coordinator, but I think at least they could say, unlike the Jets, that they have their guy in Justin Fields.
Yeah, you think so?
I mean, with that running ability, he's shown he can throw it when he has time, but it's like, that's the thing. Like, think about how much more, and it kind of almost really a worse situation than Zach Wilson, and how much more he's shown than Zach Wilson. Think about it that way.
Yeah. Dude, he got sacked 7 times.
Yeah.
But
imagine if he has protection, has some more, weapons to work with. I think he could be pretty good because he really is dangerous in the open field. We saw the Chiefs take out the Denver Broncos 27-24. I feel like they've beaten them like 10, 12 times in a row, something ridiculous like that, even though they played them tight this year in both games. But Patrick Mahomes, another 3 touchdowns, did have 1 interception, but threw for 328. Found Jerick McKinnon. What a resurgent season. We talk about Jamal Williams. Jerick McKinnon, 2 receiving touchdowns, had 5 catches for 52 yards. But that's a guy, I think he had 3 ACL surgeries, bounced around, always was a coach's favorite of Andy Reid. This year, running the ball, he's only had 70 carries, but out of the backfield, he's actually amongst the league leaders in receiving touchdowns for running backs. He has, let me just see on here. He has 8 receiving touchdowns, 512 yards, and he was not even the primary back most of the season. You think about Isaiah Pacheco and Edwards-Helaire. So he's really carved out a nice role, in this Kansas City offense. So just another weapon for them. Now they find themselves 13-3, inside track to that number 1 seed in the AFC. Obviously, that's huge. The bye and just the fact that to the Super Bowl, all the games will be played in Kansas City, as they have been for every game of Patrick Mahomes' career. And I really think, Tony, and tell me I'm wrong here, but I think this is the Chiefs, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, their most impressive season altogether, just because of what a big loss Tyreek Hill has, and they haven't felt it one bit.
Yeah, it's been pretty outstanding the way Patrick Mahomes. He's still. I mean, his playmaking ability is just like almost, inhumanly. Just because he's just able to do things that no one else does, and he just finds the open man. Whether he's under pressure or not. I mean, he just finds everyone who's open. He's accurate as all hell. And like you were saying, they have a decent, running core as well. And then their receivers. I mean, obviously Travis Kelce, one of the best tight ends in the league right now. Kadarius Toney seems like he's coming into a little bit of his own as
4
well.
catches yesterday.
Yeah. So he led the team 71 receiving yards. That's pretty impressive. I mean, they did a great job. Andy Reid and crew did a great job of putting the necessary pieces around a quarterback like Mahomes. And I mean, it's a recipe obviously for success. And it's going to be pretty dangerous whoever they see throughout the playoffs.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see. You have to imagine they're going to end up finding themselves playing, the Bengals, the Bills. So those are teams, that they're quite familiar with. And whenever you see those top quarterbacks matching up against each other, it's always a sight to watch. As far as the Broncos are concerned, another loss, 4-12, obviously firing their coach last week. Russell Wilson, 26 of 38, 222, a touchdown and an interception. But it's going to be a very tough task. We speak about head coaches. Who's going into Denver? There's been some rumblings about Sean Payton, but it's like, just like we were talking about with Zach Wilson, why would Sean Payton want to risk his, reputation if he can't fix Russell Wilson? But the Broncos have flat out said it. They said, we know this has been a tough year, but we are going to fix Russell Wilson. Is that realistic in your eyes, Tony?
For Russell Wilson getting
to be fixed?
I don't think so, dude. I mean, I don't know. I just can't see. I understand, his career with the Seahawks is obviously, very good and formidable and everything. But I mean, he just sucked this year. I mean, he could not throw any touchdowns. Obviously, you have the injury, you have the antics, outside of the game as well. I don't see if Russell Wilson is anything like he was this season. I mean, how is that going to be conducive to winning football games? It's just not going to be. And it's been so far from what he used to look like. It's like an entirely different person.
Yeah, no. And believe me, I get the skepticism when it comes to him. I do think, though, with some type of competent coach,
oh, God.
he can at least be respectable, but he probably will not ever have the value of $265 million in that contract he got. Matthew getting a little fired up.
Says,
Mahomes is insane. We missed that one.
Yeah, Mahomes is insane.
And we should have taken Fields.
And then he goes,
Jets from day one.
What a fucking joke. Is it a fucking joke?
No.
Fucking joke.
From
fucking joke.
One.
No, he didn't.
Sayonara.
Yeah, I did. Look it up.
No,
Look it up. Did you actually, though?
Yeah,
he did.
Oh. Yeah, but you like this one, Michael. Matthew says, yeah, dude, because he's Mr. Unlimited.
Oh.
And then he goes, well, guess what, Russ? Looks like you're limited, you big fucking chief.
Oh, man. Firing on all cylinders, Matthew,
my God,
today.
dude.
It's so good to not have the other bird.
It's just going
You
to
know
be
what I'm
funny
talking
to
about?
see who's coming into that
46-year-old or
who,
50 or
who's going to take on that task of fixing him and just all the baggage that he brings to the team. What a story in terms of this Miami-New England game. New England wins 23-21. So now they're 8-8 and a win over the Bills in week 18, and they will clinch the 7th seed in the AFC. And really just a strange year. And, as much as we don't like the Patriots over here, a job well done because this is not a good football team. And they're on the precipice of making the playoffs. And it's a shame that if we took care of business against them, that would be us instead of them. But that's the situation we find themselves in. And it's just funny, too, because we think about how upset we are with the way that the Jets have finished the season. How about Miami? And I get it. Tua's out, but still all the offensive talent, an 8-3 start, these close games, and they just can't get it done once again. 8-8. on the verge of being eliminated from the playoffs, and that's despite really strong seasons from Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Raheem Mostert's done a good job receiving and running out of the backfield. Teddy Bridgewater got injured, so they had to bring in the third stringer, Skylar Thompson, and they will obviously face the Jets in Week 18, and it's just going to be interesting to see who wins that game. But as far as Miami's considered, I mean, I understand stuff's happened with Tua, but I think that might be, from like the midway point in the season, the biggest disappointment in the NFL. They were rolling.
I mean, they were like one of the most favored teams. I feel like for a while in the middle of the season. And like you were saying, Tua injured. You gotta find a way to get the ball to Hill. I mean, you can't
line him up at running back.
Literally, honestly, at that point. But even so, I mean, you're telling me, I mean, Hill, I'm sure at one point or another was absolutely just like making minced meat of his defender, like having quite a few steps on him. You're telling me that Bridgewater, I know he got injured too, but Skylar Thompson couldn't even handle him, like simple basic
high
throws.
School stuff.
And then if not, like you really couldn't get your running game going. I understand against New England. I guess Jeff Wilson had 15 carries, 45 yards. You had Raheem Mostert. Is that how you say that?
Mostert. Former San Francisco 49er.
9 carries for 29 yards. But I mean, it seems like that they just had no rhythm at all offensively throughout the game. And with the fastest man in the league, I mean, you got to do something with him.
And it's just tough too, because obviously you still feel good about all the talent you've acquired in Miami, but you actually have a question at quarterback, and it's not because of the way Tua is played, but it's like, can he stay healthy? Is this concussion thing going to linger? So a lot of questions and just a lot of disappointment for the Miami Dolphins. And speaking of disappointment, how about the Indianapolis Colts lose another game, get blown out by the New York Giants 38-10. Like I said, I kind of think that this is what Jim Irsay wanted, to get a chance to draft a franchise quarterback. They're up to 5th for the NFL draft order here. Nick Foles started this game, got injured. Sam Ehlinger came in relief. He'll start Week 18. But the big story here, the New York Giants, against all odds, just with a beaten up team here, clinching a playoff spot. And you have to give props to Brian Daboll. What a job. 9-6-1 in clinching that playoff berth, and really a resurgent season for the Giants, clinching their first playoff berth since 2016, as well as a resurgent season for Saquon Barkley. I think he's really taken on a huge leadership role with the team this year, having a great season. They're said to be negotiating long-term deals for him and Daniel Jones. And it's so funny because going into the year, I have to say, I mean, I idiotically felt a lot better about Zach Wilson than I did about Daniel Jones. But now, we find ourselves here, and I'm not saying he's going to be Patrick Mahomes, but it's like, maybe with some more help. I mean, you have to at least see it out, Tony, no?
Yeah, you definitely have to. And especially Daniel Jones, led the team in rushing, 11 carries, 91 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, with a 25-yard run being his longest. I understand, he didn't throw for any touchdowns, but still, you're running those in, and he still went, 19 for 24, 177 yards, no interceptions, wasn't sacked at all either. So, I guess you got to tip your hat a little bit to the O-line as well for protecting him. And I understand it's because of the Colts, but I mean, I feel like, last season, this Giants team probably would have lost this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And two, they went through a stretch, you include that tie with Washington, where they hadn't won a game in a month. But unlike the Jets, they down the stretch take care of business. And the sad part about it is they don't even have as talented of a roster as the Jets do, but they just had better execution, better leadership. And obviously that's important at not only the quarterback position, but the head coach position. And I think that there's no way that Brian Daboll shouldn't win NFL Coach of the Year. You have to tip your cap.
Yeah, and Matthew agrees. Daboll Coach of the Year for sure. Good for them. And he also likes Saquon. Nice to see him bounce back. Brian, do you have like an animosity against the Giants at all?
I think fans can be annoying at times. The one thing I will say is I think this really tough stretch since that Miami boat trip has really tempered confidence and expectation levels for Giants fans. So I feel like now that the Giant fan is just grateful to make the playoffs whatever happens, instead of, so pumped the Giants are going to win the Super Bowl. I think because their expectations are realistic, it doesn't irk me as much. And I look at Brian Dable, you know what I mean? It's like, obviously, it was his first head coaching position. It was an opportunity he was granted. I respect the abilities of Saquon Barkley. It's nice to see him bounce back because a lot of times guys have a bad season or two or injured for a season or two. We just write them off and then they're never the same. And this is the rare example of a guy returning to the levels that we once saw him on. So I have to say I think it is a good story. But next year, I have to say, I mean, it's going to be back to our old ways, trying to finally outdo the Giants because, they've had obviously a lot more success overall, and especially recently with those 2 championships, in the last 15 years. But this is going to be huge, just how they finish this season. And I think it is pretty much a certainty. Daniel Jones will be back next year. And it's just funny. There's not a ton of quarterbacks available on the free agent market. Obviously, we'll see who gets released, this and that.
Mm-hmm.
But you think he would be sought after. But I think after struggling so much to begin his career, I think now that he feels like he has a competent coach, he wants stability. I don't even think he's going to entertain other offers. So I think he's a lock to come back, and he has a shot to win a playoff game here. We'll see how the chips fall here. But they could be matched up with the Minnesota Vikings in the first round of the playoffs. And I think, you saw that game go right down to the wire. Greg Joseph hitting that 61-yard field goal. A playoff game, Kirk Cousins, I would probably take the Giants.
Yeah, so would I.
So great story, and nothing but credit is due for them. We saw the New Orleans Saints, despite getting eliminated, virtue of the Tampa Bay win, getting eliminated from the playoffs, but defeating the Philadelphia Eagles, who lose their second consecutive game. Gardner Minshew, once again, filling in for Jalen Hurts, who's expected to return in week 18 to secure that number 1 seed in the NFC. For the Eagles, Minshew, 274, a touchdown and a pick, finding Devonta Smith 9 times for 115 yards. But, defensively, New Orleans had the answer, had a strong running game, rushing for 130 yards, and did a good job of getting Taysom Hill involved. He threw a couple passes, had a rushing touchdown, even caught a pass. So New Orleans Saints, after looking like their season was over for quite some time, obviously officially eliminated now, but at least competing down the stretch, which I think bodes well for Dennis Allen. We'll see what they do in the season finale. But they were in the division until late in the season, winning some games late here. I think he'll probably just say, I need a quarterback, and then I could be a pretty good team. But I just think, Tony, and I don't know what your thought is, but they still need more talent. I don't think Michael Thomas, we can ever count on him again. He played, 2 games, missed the whole season with the toe injury, hasn't been healthy in 4 years. Alvin Kamara, I don't know if he's still as good as he once was. You have Marcus Lattimore. I think Chris Olave will be good, but I think they need some pieces. Also, though, Dennis Allen, I don't know, he could be one and done still just because, how far is he really going to take you?
Yeah, I guess not that far, huh? Sean Payton?
He's not going to go back. They want the draft compensation because that's what they're going to get since he's sold their contract.
Yeah, right.
But on the other side of things here, I know they're dealing with injuries. The big one, besides Hurts, Lane Johnson, their right tackle, all pro for the last 10 years. It feels like being out. But any cause for concern here? You might clinch the bye next week, but let's say you don't have a good game, then you have a week off. We've seen teams, not play well down the stretch, have that bye, come out flat and lose their first game. It seems like they were the toast of the town in the NFC now this season for almost a whole year. But now it seems like there's a question mark, or do you still feel like they're positioned pretty well here?
It's always a little bit of a concern. Same thing with like Miami. You understand like, Tua was out, but you have so many pieces on the Eagles. Smith was probably one of Minshew's main targets, but even Miles Sanders had a hell of a year. As running back too. Like, you're telling me you couldn't just like successfully like run this ball, like down the throats of New Orleans and not even use Minshew that much. So I think there's maybe a little concern there, but I also do think like part of me thinks that if Hurts was in there at the QB position, I don't think he's gonna be getting sacked 6 times.
No.
So I don't know. I'm not really. I don't think in the back of my head. I don't think I'm that concerned. No.
But do you agree that it's important in the season finale against the Giants for Hurts in the offense to really probably play the whole game, being that if they win, if the bye week, and you just want to establish some momentum as you close out the regular season?
I mean, definitely. You know, with how this year went for Philly, you do not want to be going into the playoffs on a soft note.
Yeah.
You don't want to be, because you know you lose to the Giants with Hurts playing even too. There's gonna be some thoughts in the back of your player's head that are like, oh shit, you know, like kind of end of the season on a low, like yeah, they may be kind of pumping themselves up for the playoffs, but you want to go in there with a win. You want to go out there, you want to smash the Giants. You'll be like, all right, like Hurts is back, we're back. Let's make this playoff run. Smash. No?
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't agree more. So it'll be interesting to see what they look like this week. How about Tampa and you know them, like the Patriots? Obviously, my history with Brady. Tough to give them credit, but hey,
wow, I'm impressed, Barnes. The fucking Patriots, Giants, and Brady, you're giving credit.
They stepped up, and you know who did it? Freaking Jets.
The fucking TRASH.
Yeah,
trash. Brian, think about that. He didn't think about that.
But obviously, too, I mean, let's be real. I mean, the NFC South, obviously a poor division this year. But the fact that they were 5-8, it seemed like, I mean, geez, the Carolina Panthers and Sam Darnold might win this division. The Panthers come out hot, you know, leading after the first quarter. But Tom Brady in week 17 has his best game of the season. You know, I mean, at his age to throw for 432 yards, 3 touchdowns, and actually rush one in. And then finally, like, just force feed the ball to Mike Evans. And when you have a talent like Mike Evans, and he, you know, in this game clinched his 9th consecutive 1,000-yard season to start a career, a record, just the model of consistency. He's out there every week, but he had 10 catches, 207, 3 touchdowns. He's a weapon. Wow. You know, and like I said, I mean, the offensive line has really hurt them. You know, I said that in the beginning of the year. There's still talent on this team. It'll be interesting to see who they get matched up with. If it is Dallas, you know, I mean, you have to think that they at least have a decent shot, but just, you know, they've stepped up these last couple of weeks. And I'm just kind of curious on your end, Tony. Do you feel this is an impressive win for Tampa, being that Sam Darnold, once again, you know, had the Panthers, you know, in position to win, 3 touchdowns, 341. What's that, the best game of his career? I mean,
might be, dude.
They battled. So, I mean, what were your thoughts about this one?
Honestly, very impressed with Tampa Bay. I mean, you got to say,
Tommy,
I think this is probably Tampa Bay's best victory. I think.
Yeah.
I think they may have had some very decisive victories, but this one being a battle, I think Tom Brady did really well. Obviously, I think one of the better games of his season, I think, you know, finally kind of getting, I guess, the monkey off his back with throwing those interceptions so many times the past few weeks and stuff like that, having a clean game just like that. You know, you mentioned Mike Evans, Chris Godwin as well had a good game, 9 receptions, 120 yards. You know, he was hitting Rashad White and Leonard Fournette as well out of the backfield too with some passes. Leonard Fournette, you know, 10 carries, 28 yards. So, solid, I guess, you know, running, passing game. It seems like Tampa Bay was a well-oiled team against Carolina. And say what you will about Carolina, you know, Sam Darnold's been doing pretty well for them. They've been finding some success later in the season as well. So for Tom Brady to come in here, looking like his team actually likes him right now, which is good. So it's that time of the year. I feel like Tom Brady in the playoffs.
But can he go on a run in your eyes?
I mean, I don't see why not. Honestly.
Like you think it's conceivable, a Super Bowl run potentially?
Possibly, yes.
Wow. Imagine saying that a month ago. Everybody looking at you side-eyed.
I know. Well, I mean, hey, I think it's going to happen. And you guys think Rodgers could do it? Why can't Tom Brady do it?
So I mean, it is remarkable, that's for sure. And they did beat Dallas. I mean, I know it was the first week of the season, but they did beat them 19-3. Hard to not say that I wouldn't like them against Dallas, just given their playoff history. So very interesting stuff there. Todd Bowles coming back to life a little bit. Maybe they go on a run. He keeps his job as the Bucs head coach. Interesting to see if Byron Leftwich hangs around, but obviously let's finish this year first. We'll see what happens, but they've clinched the division, so technically, they could just rest their starters. Week 18 will be interesting to see what they do there. A very big disappointment for me, and I think this should come as an indictment to the head coach, Ron Rivera. The Browns, 24-10 over Washington. Washington was in pretty good shape to make the postseason. Now, they're eliminated here at 7-8-1, and I think I was never impressed with Rivera. I know, he was close to a Super Bowl, with Carolina and Cam Newton, but they haven't been that great, since he's been at the helm. And I know they had struggled the last couple games, but the decision, you start with last week, you were down big, and it wasn't even his fault, but you benched Taylor Heineke, put in Carson Wentz, and we've talked about him as a leader, and how much, more it seemed like the team responded to Heineke. Throws 3 picks yesterday, just completely takes you out of this game. And Cleveland, Deshaun Watson, once again, doesn't even throw for 200 yards. I know he had 3 touchdowns, but you know what I mean? He's not Deshaun Watson that we saw with Houston yet. Maybe next year he'll be. This year he's still getting his bearings down, but it's
what? I saw LeBron tweeting about it.
You should have been able to win this game.
What did LeBron say?
LeBron tweeting, my boy.
He was pumped up for Watson.
Yeah, getting his wheels back. Only a matter of time.
Really, dude?
Which, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets
Cleveland up.
Deshaun Watson isn't from Cleveland, though, is he?
No, it's just because
LeBron is from Cleveland. I understand that.
If I make this, LeBron James won't win 5 championships.
Do it.
But I do think that Deshaun Watson,
Gentleman Jack,
will bounce back next year. There's a lot of talent on this team. You think about Nick Chubb, even though they'll probably lose Kareem Hunt, but Chubb, he had 100 yards in this game, 7.4 yards per carry. You think about Myles Garrett as well. I think there's some potential here for Cleveland. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this offseason. But what do you think, Tony? Do you think Rivera completely botched it, and this should almost be a fireable offense, especially with the fact you're going to have a new owner most likely coming to Washington?
Fire him.
Mediocre.
Get rid of him. Yeah, he really isn't that good.
But do you think if Heineke was in, they win this game?
Yeah.
3 picks, Wentz. And once again, down the stretch, a guy you can't count on in the clutch. You think about how he imploded in Indianapolis last year.
Yeah.
Think about those.
He's imploding right now, dude.
Speaking of imploding, how about Minnesota yesterday losing 41-17? Aaron Rodgers only throws for $159.
Rodgers and Brady
manages the game. Rodgers and Brady once again relevant in the NFC as Green Bay is now in a win and in situation. Most likely that game will be flexed for Sunday Night Football for Week 18. But they ran the ball effectively in this one, 162 yards, 2 touchdowns, had the pick 6, turned over Kirk Cousins 3 times. So the defense running game stepping up, Rodgers making the throws when he needs to. And it seems like this is a similar story to that of Tampa Bay, where Green Bay looked so bad at the beginning of the year. And now, they're really hitting their stride. Everybody is anticipating they're going to beat Detroit, especially after Detroit embarrassed them earlier in the year, holding them to 9 points. Are you impressed, Tony, with this run by Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers?
You got to be a little impressed at least. Really?
No, I expected. I called it.
Well, it's ridiculous.
Well,
anyway, call it or not, I would still be impressed, especially
no.
Yeah. A team like the Vikings, right? Who I understand people have been calling fraudulent for I feel like all season really, but in reality, Minnesota's they're 12-4 now, but when they were being called fraudulent, they were still winning games. Kirk Cousins was still having solid numbers being put up week in, week out. You gotta love how Green Bay steps up here. You mentioned the defense pressuring Kirk Cousins, not giving him a chance to even look good. And like you said, Rodgers doing veteran Rodgers things, which is, making those throws when it counts. But for me to be convinced, Rodgers has to have double the yards he did. He needs to be throwing some more touchdowns rather. We'll see, dude.
Matchup dependent team. Like if they had to face San Francisco first round, you would expect them to lose, but maybe if they played Dallas, you could see them winning, that type of thing. Or
so basically, if anyone plays Dallas, they're gonna win.
I don't know. I think they're vulnerable.
No,
but as is Minnesota.
Right. No, Dallas is vulnerable. Turnovers, defense pressures Dak. He's going to turn over the ball probably, right? Talk about pick 6s for sure. San Francisco, would be a tougher matchup for them. But Green Bay seeing Dallas in the first round, yeah, I could see them, squeaking out a win for sure. But again, Rodgers has to come in here and he has to look like vintage Rodgers. I don't feel like he hasn't really done that.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Oh, he's gonna.
The whole country may be watching if they flex this game. It's going to be interesting, though. Dan Campbell, and if Seattle wins and beats the Rams before they play their game, next week, Detroit will be eliminated, but you don't think Dan Campbell's going to back down. So I don't think this Lions game will be easy. Obviously, they had the formula to stop them earlier in the year, but it does just seem like Green Bay has all the momentum despite Detroit blowing out Chicago here.
Oh, yeah.
But also, I mean, we have to give props to Jairi Alexander. Justin Jefferson was on the precipice of breaking the receiving record, and he held him to one catch yesterday.
That's crazy.
So a job well done there.
He was pretty tight.
Yeah. Jefferson definitely was tight.
Wasn't he like throwing his helmet and shit? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you looking at me like I was fucking.
But you think about the kick return as well. That's what started the scoring for Green Bay. So Rich Bisaccia, the former Raider head coach last year, when John Gruden got fired, making his impact felt there. Running game is good, so you are right. You just want to get more comfortable with the passing game. Hopefully, Christian Watson is a little more healthy next week. But what is your first thought when you think about them at home? Let's say it is that Sunday night football game, last game of the regular season in Green Bay, all eyeballs on them. Dan Campbell, not backing down. Let's say they are eliminated. I mean, what are your thoughts about that game?
Green Bay?
In Green Bay, Goff, I know. The weather, Detroit, a dome team. Right?
That's tough, dude. I mean, I understand all the momentum and everything, but I could see it being stopped, in Green Bay. I don't know. I feel like we've seen some pretty tough losses for the Packers also in Green Bay this season. I'm just trying to look. And when they did, the Lions, they beat the Packers 15-9. Early November. Packers did lose to the Titans too at home in Green Bay. So I don't know, man.
But different team now, running game, defense. Rodgers and LaFleur, the track record in December, Tony.
Oh, no, give me the Lions, dude.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Take the Lions, baby.
And you would all-time classic, Tony. You would think Seattle too would take care of business against the Rams. Speaking of the Rams, in a meaningless game for them, they set the record yesterday in a 31-10 loss for most losses by a defending Super Bowl champion.
Love it.
11. The Chargers
dog
solidifying their playoff positioning here, and with a win next week, a loss by Baltimore, they would find themselves in that 5 spot in the AFC playoff picture. Justin Herbert, 21-28, 212, 2 touchdowns. Another outstanding game by Austin Eckler. And a guy I think, too, we don't talk about. And of course, there's a lot of talented running backs. You think about what Jacobs and Barkley are doing this year. Just to name a couple guys, Dalvin Cook, of course, Joe Mixon, not this year, but in the past. But Austin Eckler is a good player. Really lethal as a receiver out of the backfield. Almost he does that better than he does running the ball. But he has 13 touchdowns on the ground, 881 yards rushing, 4.6 yards per carry this year. So that's just what he does on the ground. And then you think about what he does, out of the backfield. You look at his receiving numbers. He's got 103 receptions for 686 yards and 5 touchdowns. So a total of 18 touchdowns. He had 20 touchdowns last year. This guy scored a lot of touchdowns the last couple of years.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But are you impressed with the Chargers, Tony? Herbert, a little bit of a run here. The defense, Bosa coming back.
I mean, impressed. I kind of I feel like I'm in, a Michael Theophilus position with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I feel like you kind of expect it,
They haven't made the playoffs yet with the Staley-Herbert combination, so. Coming into their own. I think they could potentially be a dangerous team come playoff time. Could you see them picking off Kansas City or Buffalo?
Wow, dude.
Or Cincinnati.
Honestly, yeah. Any of those teams. Possibility for sure, dude.
When you have that quarterback, you have a chance.
Yeah.
You just got to hope the coach doesn't hold them back. There's been a lot of skepticism regarding him. You think Aaron Donald retires after this year? injuries. Did just get the big contract. I think it depends on the direction of the team as well as the health of himself. If he's healthy and they're going to rebuild this team and be contenders next year, I think he'll come back. My father, shout out to Mr. G, one of the best out there, said that Barnes is going to be famous. Can't believe how much sports he knows. So
who said that?
Mr. Gabriel.
Oh yeah.
So appreciate that. And yeah, we go back a long ways. A lot of Yankee talk over the years.
Wow, sounds fun.
I'll talk to your father. That's what Matthew says. But last game of yesterday, I can't believe hour 15. We're finally getting to the last game of yesterday.
Last game of yesterday.
The Steelers, Tony. The streak is alive.
Renee.
Playoff hopes are alive. Renee Chokery, even though he checked out, just because of the disappointment of the season up until the last couple of weeks and the 2-7 start, all of that, 16-13 over Baltimore yesterday. Kenny Pickett, 15-27, a touchdown, the late strike once again, this time to Najee Harris here. But he had a good game rushing the ball as well, 111 yards, good defensive game. They picked off Huntley once. So, Pittsburgh getting right at the right time of the season finale against Cleveland. They need a win and some help to get in. The biggest being, really the two things that need to happen is the Patriots losing as well as the Miami Dolphins, and then they would get that final playoff spot in the AFC. Are you somewhat impressed given the struggles of the Pittsburgh Steelers this year? A 2-7 start, the offense, the offensive line, a rookie quarterback, and the fact that they sit here at 8-8.
Yeah, I guess so.
Didn't give up. I mean,
yeah,
they didn't pull the Jets yesterday in the last couple of weeks, right? I mean, it's true.
Oh
Tomlin,
man,
dude, that's a legend.
Yeah. No, I mean, you really got to appreciate that. I mean, obviously,
he's won one.
They have yeah.
It's been a while though. Hasn't won a playoff game since 2016.
Has it really been that long?
I remember
supposedly
that.
The Pittsburgh media, the fans all over him want him to go. Think that he's mediocre.
They do
because he did it early. Did it with Big Ben. Hasn't been able to do it since. I mean, they're trying a different quarterback here. But what do you think about that, Tony? Do you think that's a little disrespect? Or
ooh.
I mean, I can see why a fan base would be upset with that. Not to mention, you're still beating a team that's the Baltimore Ravens,
who've scored 100 points the last 10 weeks.
Maybe, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a real struggling team. So, I mean, if I'm a fan, yeah, I'll be upset with the head coach. But I want him gone. I mean, the man still brought in a Super Bowl. So, I mean, there's got to be some type of credit for that. How long has it been since that Super Bowl, by the way?
2008, second year. He's in his 15th year. Oh, shit.
Oh! Let's go, dude.
And now the camera's unplugged. Let's go.
Oh, shit.
How did that happen, Tony?
Tony got too hyped.
Tony hyped right now. Absolutely.
Wow.
Hyped. If you guys just bear with us.
Fuck.
You know what's funny? On the other, if you're watching Downtime elsewhere, it's Oh, it's not.
Oh no, this is me, dude. Oh, hey,
guys. You hate to see it.
Oh, it's not in here.
Oh,
my
Tony,
gosh.
Tony.
Dude, this isn't my fault, bro.
Tony just fucking.
I don't know what happened.
Offended by the Tomlin question, honestly.
Okay,
Looks
cool.
like
Audio's still coming in. That's good though.
But
this
I
might
don't
be
know.
a serious issue, guys.
I mean, I get it.
Why don't you just unplug the the ATEM?
They're going.
Oh, really?
They're going through some changes. This year in Pittsburgh. You think about Roethlisberger retiring after a long career he's had, but it could be possible, Michael, that the message maybe he's getting a little stale with Tomlin. I mean, haven't won a playoff game in a long time. I mean, that's the last time we had a shot at the playoffs. Think about how long ago that was.
I know, and I mean, I could understand. I totally could, but at least they make the playoffs.
Right. And they're just they play hard though. That's what you want.
They play hard, dude.
Out of a team
what the
that might
man?
lack in talent. Was it really the Armstrong, Michael?
Dude, who knows, man? There's no way, dude.
Dude, you came down hard.
No, but are we sure that it's not like a connection on this side of things or no?
No.
Maybe he pulled the cord out.
Wait, you're 100%. You're all over it, Tony.
Yes.
Maybe he smacked the cord too hard.
No, I didn't hit the cord, dude. This has happened before, too.
Oh God.
Let's try that.
Have you
Hold on.
karate chopped the table before?
Let's see. Karate chop.
Wow.
Wow.
It's pretty significant, huh?
We're just going close up with Tony.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Brian
Well-
really appreciates it.
Oh my God. I never thought I'd see the day, Tony.
I don't know what to tell you, dude. Go on. Ugh. Like that?
Oh, you're trying a new cord. Here we go.
New cord. That's an
I'm
interesting
editing guys
strategy.
right now at folks back home. Aliens 3. Be on the lookout. Coming out in the end of February.
Nice, dude.
And
Wow,
just a little update while we have a second here. Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. The only reason I'm really mentioning this, Caleb Williams, the Heisman Trophy winner for USC this season, 5 touchdown passes in this one. And this is on the heels of USC being very disappointed, not included in the college football playoff due to that loss to Utah last month in the Pac-12 championship. But Caleb Williams balling out, and it's conceivable to think if he was eligible for the draft this year, he would be possibly the number 1 pick over Bryce Young. So a very impressive season on his end and a resurgent season for USC. They've always been historic. You think back to the OJ days, all the talent that's come through that program, the Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush years, and all that Pete Carroll did. So nice to see them in the right direction under the first year leadership of Lincoln Riley. So it looks like they should be able to close out this one 4th and 10 from the Tulane 46.
We're back.
And we are finally back, Tony. Do you have any familiarity with Caleb Williams?
Limited. The name sounds familiar.
But big, strong arm, can move in the pocket. So could be a guy that the Jets could have circled on their list. But the problem is, we don't need them to have another terrible season to get into position to be able to draft him. But nevertheless, an exciting player to watch. The other bowl game in progress, or actually just finished up, LSU 63-7 over Purdue. So Brian Kelly in his first year at LSU capping off the season with a 10-win year. We saw Mississippi State, good story, obviously, with the passing of Mike Leach. They have an interim head coach. They defeat Illinois 19-10. Last bowl game of the day, tipping off in about 15 minutes. We're going to have Utah in the Rose Bowl against Penn State. So this is a matchup of 10-win teams. And you think about this, obviously, program like, Penn State, hoping to be in the college football playoff, but a program like Utah, kind of newer on the big scale things, for so long was a Mountain West member, coming over to the Pac-12 in the recent years. So this would be probably the biggest win in school history. You think about, actually, believe it or not, Urban Meyer way back when with Alex Smith at quarterback. That was their last big win in that Fiesta Bowl back in 2004. But this would be pretty impressive to take out Penn State here. So that'll be the last bowl game of the day. And I believe maybe that might be the last bowl game of the year, if I'm not mistaken, other than the championship. I'm actually kind of curious about that.
Thank God.
It always just goes so quick, like even quicker than I think the NFL season, bowl season. You have all these games and then you look up and they're all played, but yeah, that will actually do it. So last game of the season, January 9th, 1 week from today, Georgia opening up 13-point favorites over TCU and Max Duggan over there. So that'll be interesting to see, if they're able to compete in that one. But long-winded way of saying we are back, Tony, back in position, and we're getting ready to preview the last game of Week 17.
We have some comments to get to though from Matthew.
So I guess we're gonna get to those before we preview it. So
well, yeah, obviously, dude. Obviously, dude. Matthew says Steelers culture is solid as it gets. Cardinals Steelers Super Bowl was sick. And he goes, "Oh, he made it 6-shot, Michael." And then he says, "Fuck." He says, "Watch Tony."
Not HD.
Not HD, dude.
Come on, dude. I'm just reading what he said.
And then he goes, "Ha ha ha, come on, dude. What in the fuck?" And he goes, "I love Goodyear tires. I just got 4 of them brand new." Oh yeah. Oh no,
so,
Brian.
Once again, obviously we appreciate Matthew tuning in.
Aren't you excited that he has 4 new tires?
100%.
I had to drive him to pick up the car.
But what are your thoughts here, Tony? Honestly, as wow, Tulane first and goal from the 6, so might have an opportunity for the biggest bowl win in school history. We'll keep you posted there. But Bengals winners of 7 in a row, hosting the Bills, outside chance at the number 1 seed potentially here. Obviously, need a win in the worst way. Bills 12-3, but I guess haven't been as explosive as they would have hoped this year, just in terms of a lot of red zone turnovers, fading in the second half. Some decent games recently, but I think Allen's been affected by the UCL injury. What are your thoughts heading into this one? Buffalo 2.5-point favorites.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like Bengals lost to the Bills, I think, are way earlier in the season. I think.
No, they didn't play.
Are you sure?
You only play division opponents twice.
Oh,
yeah. The Bengals beat the Chiefs, if that's what you're thinking of, and the Bills beat the Chiefs.
Oh, maybe that is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I feel like Burrow. I feel like in the pocket, protected, is just going to be so dominant through the air. Probably having a better game than Allen, to be honest. I'm thinking like well over 376 yards, maybe 4 touchdowns, 3 through the air, 1 on the ground by himself. I mean, give me Burrow all day in this game, to be honest. I think, a little bit of, I think he's a little underestimated from being at the Super Bowl and then, not looking so great.
Tough start to the year.
Very tough start. Not really having a good offensive line that seemed like was protecting him. But then all of a sudden, I feel like they made adjustments. They made him comfortable in the pocket. We've seen some very great success from Joe there because of that, and success for Cincinnati in general. So give me Cincinnati. What's the over under at?
15.5.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I think it goes over that. I mean, I think these are gonna be 2 high scoring teams. Give me Cincinnati. 34. Bills 28.
So have to agree with you on Cincinnati. And I know it seems stupid because if you just look at the numbers with the Bills, I mean, they passed the test there, but it's just the eye test. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? They just escaped against Miami. They lost to the Jets earlier this season. And I just think this is a tough assignment in Cincinnati. The crowd's going to be into it. And I've just been so impressed with Joe Burrow this year. So I think what'll be key too, if they can really get the Bills to respect the run game. Joe Mixon has struggled to get anything going this year, and part of that being the offensive line. But I just think through the air, Burrow can get whatever he wants. And I think Josh Allen can too, but he might throw some picks, possibly fumble the ball as well in the red zone. So that's why I have to go with Cincinnati here. 50.5. I think this is actually going to go under just because the Bills, like I said, they have some games where they fade in the second half, maybe get shut out in the second half. So I'm going to say we're going to go Bengals 28 and the Bills 17.
Wow.
So the Bengals picking up a big win, and they had this stat too on the radio today, the most combined wins on a Monday Night Football game. Only caveat being with the extra game in the season, they didn't usually have Monday Night Football in week 17. So obviously more chance for victories, but still a heavyweight matchup. So I'm sure that will be fun. Last Monday Night Football game of the season, but they are going to do a Saturday doubleheader for week 18. They haven't announced who and where as of yet for the or actually I guess they've announced some of these games. Oh, okay, they have announced them. Okay, so just to update everybody, So the 2 standalone games Saturday, we're gonna have Chiefs at Raiders. A lot of question about that. Why the Chiefs in the standalone? I guess just being if they win this game, they clinch the number 1 seed. But just kind of odd going against the Raiders, who did have a fighting chance this week against San Francisco. Better than expected results from Stidham, but nevertheless, I mean, I think the Chiefs should blow them out here, and who knows? Could be McDaniel's last game as head coach. They go with the 8:15 game, and I'm guessing that'll be the Buck Aikman crew. Jags against Titans for the division, so that makes sense in a standalone. And then they do go with Packers Lions, last game of the season in Lambeau. I'm excited for that one, Tony. Do you feel? I know you were leaning with Detroit, but do you feel like that's going to be down to the wire there?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I think that's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Is that your favorite game of the week, or is there anything else you're kind of looking forward to? I mean, obviously Titans Jags for the division is exciting.
That's gonna be a good game. I think Jags have that in the bag though. Honestly, I mean, Giants Eagles have some implications for sure. Other than that though,
Cowboys Commanders. I mean, just for the Cowboys seating wise, Jets Dolphins obviously not really much there. Patriots winning in against the Bills could be jockeying for position.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to see that Green Bay game. Can they finish the deal? So that'll be a wrap on the season, believe it or not. And then playoff football time. Definitely excited for this one. And what a year it's been in the NFL. And I think the trend will continue with another great game tonight for Monday Night Football. But let's go now to the world of the National Hockey League.
Here's Matthews. Scores! Hat-trick goal!
My goodness, this is a great shot.
Big hit on the far side by McCarr! He flattens Jordan's skull! Oh my goodness! Next to come right back, terrifying and robbed by Shesterkin. That's brilliant from Igor Shesterkin. It's a breakaway to win it in overtime! McDavid scores! The winner in overtime!
And I have to say, I guess you could call me Eddie Mush for this one. Tulane 46, USC 45, 9 seconds left.
Wow.
Looks like Tulane is going to pull this upset unless the Trojans can somehow get a big kick return, big pass, and get a chance at a long field goal, or just have some trick gimmick play. So we'll see if they're able to do that. But just crazy stuff there in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. Speaking of great stuff, though, Tony, the New York Rangers with a representative effort yesterday, victory over the Florida Panthers in a game that you felt, momentum-wise, that they really, needed to have 5-3, 2 goals from Zibanejad, 1 from Chris Kreider, and they get the rare Jaroslav Halak victory. Feeling pretty good about ringing in the new year with a W?
Yeah, dude. Feeling pretty good about
Is that a bite? Sorry, is it a
dude.
bite?
Yeah, I'm certainly feeling pretty good about this one. And I watched this game, and I was honestly pretty impressed with how Halak played. Rangers make mistakes, as any team does during a game of hockey. But they stayed in it and they won this game. And I'm watching highlights on Twitter, plays, whatever, and people are just so whiny about shit. It's really annoying. But I think in totality here, the Rangers played a good game. Obviously the scoring, to kind of, I guess, recap the scoring here. It started early with a Zibanejad power play goal. One thing I was mentioning last week, and in their past few losses, or even in some of their wins too, was the struggle in the power play. And to take this opportunity, first power play they had, Zibanejad absolutely slams one in the back of the net. I mean, he quite literally threads a needle. I know he had 2 goals, but I believe this goal was the one where quite literally Bobrovsky was covering. He came out on he came out of his net to be aggressive and to make the net small. And somehow Zibanejad just gets it right over his right shoulder, top shelf of the net. And you love to see that. Like I'm saying, power play goals was something that was seemingly, hard to come by. for the Rangers. And bang, right there, end of the first period, you get one from Zibanejad. About 10 minutes into the second period, you get another goal by Zibanejad. This one was super impressive because of the assists on it, honestly. Capo Caco showed a lot of patience and some good puck handling here. He was behind Florida's net. He got the puck in deep after a big push by, I believe, Schneider, who made a great defensive play on one side and transitioned that to the other side to make some offense for the Rangers. Kako ends up with the puck behind the Panthers net here. And he's just kind of poised. He's moving his puck. He's making the Florida defenders, who are scattered at this point, looking for a man to defend, making them double clutch their skates. Not sure where to go. He finds Zibanejad, who just slams in the back of the net. Past that, you get a nice goal from Kreider as well. At this point, the Rangers are up 3-1. And then you get a power play goal late in the second period here by the Panthers. And, you got to give it to the Panthers too. They stayed for the most part, with the Rangers in this game, throughout, answering each goal. It was 2-1, it was 3-2, it was 4-3. And the Rangers were able to put it away. But third period comes along, minute and a half in, Victor Trocheck on the power play. Now, there was a little bit of a mistake here, I think, by the Rangers in their power play unit, which has been a mistake they've been making for a while now, which is that just their players are too deep. They're too deep in the power play. And I understand, when you have that extra man, you feel, that sense of comfort where you can kind of just move the puck around and whatever. But the Panthers jump on a poor pass, and they have a nice, kind of 2-on-1, scenario down the other end. Trocheck, lays a big hit in front of the net in front of Halak. Halak makes a great save, and I'll talk about Halak in a little bit. But after that, Trocheck absolutely beelines it down the ice, blowing past Panther defenders here. And, he finds the back of the net off an assist from Kreider. A pretty easy goal for him because he was wide open at that point. But for him to make that play defensively and to swing it the other way offensively, I mean, you guys are kind of seeing a theme here. This Rangers team did a phenomenal job in making big defensive stops and transitioning quickly into offense, which is, I think, something we haven't really seen a lot from them this season. And on top of that, Panarin towards the end of the game, he gets kind of the goal that kind of really puts the nail in the coffin here for the Panthers to make it 5-3, and they're able to hold off. You got to obviously tip your hat to, I mentioned Trocheck, I mentioned Kako, I mentioned Schneider, Zibanejad too for the 2 goals. But you do want to tip your hat to Halak. And I know how much Brian doesn't want to.
No, you're right. This is the day of me giving credit. We talked about it in football, and here we are with hockey. Halak has stepped up. Of course, you just have to hope that this isn't just a hot stretch and then he's going to tank down the stretch. But if he's going to play like this, he could be our backup. But he wasn't playing like this in the beginning of the year. So I hope it's not just a matchup thing, and I hope that we can rely on him down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so too. I mean, hey, he had 32 saves last night. I think that's his 3rd win of the season. So not great, but he's picking it up. And I mean, there was maybe one goal you could argue where he was a little slow on, but I mean, the goal in the power play, these are instances where you can't necessarily blame Halak. Even the power play goal, you got a piece of it too, just didn't get enough of it. And then on top of that, he was making just phenomenal saves. The Panthers had so many chances, that the Rangers were kind of giving up. You look at the team stats here. Panthers had 35 shots on goal, the Rangers 28. So the Panthers had a lot of offense going on. The Rangers obviously came up on top, and like I mentioned, a big part of that was the Rangers, 1, taking advantage of the power play opportunities, and 2, leaning on Halak. And it was really nice to see that. And I would say overall, just a great victory for the Rangers. We watched them do things they haven't done a lot of recently. You started the new year coming off of what looked like a shaky few games going into the break. And they start off the new year right. Halak got the dub, and Shesterkin rested. You still got the win, and everybody's happy. So I would say a great win for them against the Florida team, by the way, who's really nothing to sneeze at. They're a solid team.
Yeah, and I feel like too, a lot like in the beginning of the year, I was doing a lot of stat checking with the Rangers in terms of like the goals scored and just thinking about what Mika and Kreider did last year. But I'm really coming around to this balanced attack, and Mika's picked it up of recent, and Kreider, as they're approaching 20 goals each, but the scoring is spread out. Vinny Trocheck too, having 13 is big. Panarin finally in double digits with 10, and I do think Kakko has really been coming on strong as well. He sits with 9. You got Goudreau with 8. So there's a lot of guys, and like even somebody like Sammy Blas, Blaze. Oh, actually, no. That was never mind.
Someone who has no
0 goals, but could step up, Tony. You never know. Philip Hedel with 8. So you definitely have options. Foxy had a decent start, but he sits with 7 and kind of more of an assist guy. So it's nice to see that, and I do feel decent. But as we've seen with the Rangers this season, it's always about what you're doing next, and it's very important for them at this point. You were coming off of losing 3 out of 4 after a 7-game winning streak to start another streak. And I know it's going to be tough, but you are at home. You are playing the Hurricanes on Tuesday. So it's just about, winning that game tomorrow, because then, you're in Montreal and in New Jersey before returning home for Minnesota, Dallas, and yet another game with Montreal as well. So it's just all about the path forward. And Shesterkin has been playing pretty well. So you do feel good about that. And it's all about just moving your way slowly but surely up that ladder in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah. Devils game coming up soon.
Devils game's January 7th. Prudential Center, 1:00 though. I'm nervous about that. Halak might draw the start. Body clock.
Way,
I hate but you have to admit, 1:00 NHL Network games suck.
But they're off on Friday.
They're off on Friday, but I'm just saying, like, I hate when they're even assigned though. Just play the game at night. I feel like it's just never the game. They don't play the way that they normally play. That's my problem with it. No, what?
What do you mean they don't play the way they normally play?
At 1:00, there's always something finicky.
There's no finicky. No way, Brian.
I'm gonna talk to the research department, and get some numbers on Rangers early games on the weekends.
I would love to see the numbers
when they're not playing the Coyotes. I know that game you went to last year. Were they down 3 or 4?
I think 4.
That was nuts, though.
I know.
And then the hat trick, the hat on the ice.
Oh my God, so amazing.
So it's gonna be interesting here. But one thing I have to say, I don't know about you, but I'm coming around on Kakko a little bit.
Me too, dude.
Like maybe 20 goals this year. That would be a step forward.
I mean, yeah, dude. And you look at some of his stats. Kakko, 9 goals, 8 assists, 17 points, plus 2 on the ice. He's a really good facilitator, honestly, of good play, of good scoring opportunities. And it's a shame, honestly, because I feel like I'm starting to like him better than Lafreniere, to be honest.
Yeah. Laffy, where I am.
I know, dude. He was a healthy scratch a couple games ago, came back, but a little skeptical here. But you gotta love the improvement Kakko has. The first rounder here. I mean, you want some good production out of him. He deserves it, and it obviously benefits the Rangers as well. The more he does, better.
Where are you on Artie?
Artemi Panarin?
Yeah.
I mean, he leads the team in points, which is obviously really good. I mean, I think he's another guy who facilitates, scoring opportunities. So I think he could do maybe a little bit better on the defensive end, some back checking from the forwards. But other than that, I mean, you really can't blame him. He works really well with Trocheck. He works really well with Kreider as well. He's a guy who you can stick on any line, really. And they'll figure out a way to score, so you got to appreciate that.
Yeah. So really excited for this stretch here and hope they can really solidify their spot in the Eastern Conference. In terms of today, very light schedule.
Is it?
As there's only 3 games, 1 in progress.
That's right.
Classic.
Third period, probably.
Fenway
right?
Puck, third period, 5:22 left, tied at 1 apiece. So what a scene it would be there. Get overtime, possibly a shootout.
I hope so. I want to catch some of it.
But Winter Classic, always fun. But there are some other stadium series I think we'll be able to see this year, right? I don't think it's just this one.
No, there's a couple other ones. I forget what off the top of my head, but there are other ones. This is just the Winter Classic.
I would say let's have 30 outdoor games a year.
Yeah.
No?
I'm all for it, honestly.
Yeah.
I would love to go to them. I think the production value to them are really cool. I mean, it gives a chance to see the productions with different camera angles. They fly drones, obviously, because they're open stadiums. You get giant, jibs on the big arms swinging across the ice. It's really cool.
Do you worry about wind or snow?
Oh, yeah. I think, I forget.
Lake Tahoe?
Was it?
Could have been.
It could have been. It might have been.
Or Minnesota.
Lake Tahoe is where?
California. Up like state California.
Maybe it was. Maybe
up.
It might have been Lake Tahoe Kings, maybe against someone. I don't know who. But it was no. They always do teams that are close by.
Oh, okay. Maybe San Jose.
Yeah, maybe. But it's always cool to that was cool to watch because they were on like a body of water right near it, and you saw people in boats come up watching the game, which was dope. But the sun was out, Brian, and there was like a 45-minute intermission at one point because the ice was melting and shit. So there's some problems for sure. And then, you get players complaining about the conditions of the ice. There's glare off the ice. Some of them are playing with sunglasses on. It's crazy stuff. But I'll be all for more Stadium Series games.
Do you think it might increase popularity with the sport as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially I think if you get, teams, again, like I was saying, how it's teams that are close by, like Pittsburgh and Boston here. Get teams to travel to do this, maybe better matchups, bigger matchups, different stadiums and stuff. Absolutely, dude.
Maybe a game in Antarctica. How about that?
Oh, you want to go deep? You want to go?
Travel would be a problem. We'd have to talk to Dog about that.
Yeah, I don't know how much attendance is going to be, dude.
So that being said, let's pick the two games. And I was thinking, because we were going back and forth about what we're gonna have on the line after you taking home the prize with the previous pick segment. Do we think round of golf?
Round of golf? Yeah. When are we going until then?
We are gonna go till the end of the playoffs, NFL. So give us a little more than a month.
February,
mid-February,
right?
So a month and a half. Yeah.
Okay.
Done.
Round of golf?
Yeah.
Do it. Fairchild Wheeler,
Tony. Philly, Anaheim, Vegas, Colorado. Pick one of them. I'll take the other. What do you got?
Oh, good question, dude. I'm interested to see where Colorado is at.
Let's get daily face off as well.
Oh, you want to do daily face off, dude?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
Let's be official here, Charlie.
Logan Thompson, likely Georgiev confirmed.
That's big
there.
For Colorado.
Big for Colorado. And
Logan,
then we have the backup Tendy over there for
But how
Philly.
do you trust Anaheim this year?
I mean, John Gibson has had some bright moments.
4 goals per game.
How
bright is that?
I mean, obviously, it's not great in terms of that because of just sheer poor play of Anaheim. But he still had some bright spots.
Take him, dude.
Excuse me.
Torts tight.
Very tight, dude. I'm gonna let you take that game, to be honest, because I'm gonna take and even though I was gonna say Vegas is kind of bit me in the ass. They actually most recently lost Anaheim 3-2. But I say fuck that. Give me Vegas here. The underdog here at home, away on the road, against Colorado. I think, a couple of tough losses under their belts. They learned a few things, came back, big win against Nashville in overtime. Let's go. Vegas starting off the new year correctly here. Colorado still looming around the injury of Nathan McKinnon. Bang, Vegas, let's go.
So, I mean, you would think, Carter Hart being out, kind of a tough one here. No, I think the number one rule of the year, it's, the first one obviously is not picking against Vizmelka, but the second is you don't take the Ducks, Tony. I mean, you really don't. And I understand, Philly hasn't been a strong year either, but give me the Flyers 2-1 overtime, crazy, with a big win here for John Tortorella, Tony. Did we set a record for in studio as far as duration today?
For Sportsport, yeah.
Sportsport,
yeah. I think we have today, dude.
Unbelievable.
I know, approaching the 2-hour mark.
Oh,
dude.
Almost led right into Gaming Corner. Which,
honestly,
speaking
dude,
of 7:00,
7:00. Barnes is super hyped for this one.
Gears of War 3.
I'm going to be in the Blockbuster corner Over here at the Knowlton, it's going to be a phenomenal time. Xbox 360, obviously, the nostalgia. Gears of War movie is in the works right now. Who's going to be
20 years in the making?
Literally 20 years in the making. I mean, they've been asking for a movie forever, dude. Critically award-winning movie, video game here. I'm going to be playing, an hour or two of it,
Are we thinking possibly one-on-one gridlock with Michael or no?
If Mike goes up for it, I would be so down, honestly.
I could see him getting Ralph down.
I could see Mike being fucking quick on the
down.
sticks for Gears. Did you play Gears, Mike?
I dabbled.
Yeah, dude. I feel
Would
like,
you rush Boom or no? At gridlock?
Oh, sometimes, dude.
Only
Tony, you're a
sometimes,
big
dude.
boom shot guy.
I do enjoy the boom shot, dude. I mean, you're accurate with that. The one shot kill. I mean, come on, dude.
But I could see you getting Ralph for a sniper. You just seem like somebody who would love honing in.
Yeah, there was
target.
There was one map. I forget what it was called, but it was like a long road.
Gears 3?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was in Gears 3.
Yeah, I'm not
definitely Gears 3 because that's where I was
maps.
playing online and stuff. And you can just kind of sit back at you just look, you can scope down and just see the whole road. Just picking people off.
Gridlock had some good sniping spots though. Up top there, you know how the stairs is in the middle and you rush from there.
Oh,
and
dude.
then the other person's by the boom or up top back there. Gridlock, man. What a map.
Dude.
What a map.
What a fucking game, bro.
Wait, did the new one just come out or no?
Oh, it was a while ago, I feel.
A couple years at this point? Okay. All right, any plans on another one? They're kind of just movie centric.
I think right now, movie first, and then they'll probably, see where it's at. I'm sure, Xbox and Microsoft and who makes the game? Ubisoft, maybe? I forget what company production. I mean, it's not Bethesda, I don't think. I'm sure they'll be, licking their chops if the movie does well, make another game. Let's go.
But I feel like just go back to Gears 1 and just really upgrade the hell out of it.
I'm honestly really surprised they haven't remastered the games for the new Xbox.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I would
Gears 1. Okay, because I feel like, I know Gridlock at night, in the new one, but come on. Give me Gridlock during the day.
Yeah,
that's
really.
Classic.
It is.
So everyone definitely keep an eye out for that. That'll be fun stuff.
7 o'clock. Let's go.
Seems like Michael is up for the task, Tony. But as we said, I mean, what a show, and we really appreciate everybody hanging in here with us today, and look forward to talking to everyone throughout the week. But we want everybody to continue to comment, like, and subscribe, as well as check out the archives on the YouTube page, Tony, Michael, Renee in costume, as well as the merch, downtimetv.com. We want everybody to enjoy the day, enjoy the games, enjoy Gaming Corner, and we will see you mañana.
Hey guys, Tony here from Downtime TV checking in. I want to thank all our fans out there who's been liking, subscribing, sharing our content. You guys are the best. You guys are our bloodline. You make us love what we do. Thanks again.